Welcome to Here's My Thing. I'm your host, Frankie Salazar, and today we've got a good one for you. So, in the last episode, we covered the Southern Californian fires. The devastating magnitude of these fires is just something that's quite incomprehensible, from 100-mile-an-hour plus winds to the devastating financial impact. We said last episode that it's anywhere from $60 to $100 billion in damages. People have lost their homes, their livelihoods, their memories, everything. So I wanted to talk a little bit today because I said also in the last episode that I had a couple of jokes, or I wanted to kind of like nitpick at a few things that kind of got under my skin. I did notice that there were a lot of celebrities, particularly the ones that are affected because, via losing their homes or whatever it is, to the fires, particularly in the Palisades, the Hidden Hills, and the LA area. So to start this off, Jamie Lee Curtis, the infamous and wonderfully talented Jamie Lee Curtis, pledged over $1 million of her own money to support those affected in the fires. Jamie Lee Curtis appeared as a guest on the Jimmy Fallon show the other day, and it was just a really heartfelt moment because you could tell that she is deeply disheartened by it. Go ahead and take a look.
As you know, where I live is on fire right now. Literally, the entire city of the Pacific Palisades is burning, and it's gnarly, you guys. This is literally where I live. Everything. The market I shop in, the schools my kids go to, friends. Many friends now have lost their homes. So it's a really awful situation.
So you can see right there that she is utterly devastated by the situation and completely heartbroken. So she herself pledged $1 million. Then we have celebrities like Halle Berry and Sharon Stone who have pledged to donate their entire closet worth of clothing to assist those in the wildfires as well. Paris Hilton also was affected. She was actually watching the news at the time, or hopefully I'm getting that story correct, but she was watching the news at the time when she found out that her house burned down. I mean, I couldn't imagine getting some news, especially like that, in that way. So my heart does go out to her. She herself pledged $100,000 cash and said that she would match another $100,000 shortly thereafter. But I did want to bring something up because everyone is just saying, like the celebrities are the ones that are getting the headlines here, okay? Paris Hilton's house, Nicki Minaj's house, Jamie Lee Curtis's house. And here's the thing. Between those women, they're worth a collective over $600 million almost. They're going to be fine. I don't know if I could stress that enough. Yes, it is painful seeing that the house that you built all your memories in and you have, photographs and, maybe even pets or whatever it is, but they're going to be okay. So I really do want to stress that we need to start caring for those who are actually in need. So if you want to go ahead and help, there's going to be a link in the description taking you to where you can donate money and or clothing or whatever it is, maybe buy a first responder a meal or something. So if you want to go ahead and do your part, go ahead and click the link in the description below. Now, companies, corporations such as Paramount donated $1 million to the effort, and Walt Disney. The Walt Disney Corporation was single-handedly the largest contributor, donating $15 million. Now, people, as I was reading the comments, ripped their heads off. Now, I'm somebody who does believe that if you are a multi-billion-dollar company, if you're donating anything less than, $50 to $100 million to an effort like this, especially when it's in your home state, it just leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. But no one is sitting here talking about the celebrities that aren't donating anything. You know what I mean? Now, Disney donated $15 million. Now, that's just pretty much a Disney trip for a family of 5. So they're going to be fine. They're going to make that money back. But Nicki Minaj in particular, okay? My girl Nicki, we all know I love her. I'm going to mention her probably in every single episode if I can, was affected by the Kenneth fire. Now, I want to go ahead and put an image up on the screen because this gentleman was detained by the LA, or I think it's the LA, but by some kind of Californian police department for committing an act of arson And they're naming it the Kenneth Fire, just outside of Hidden Hills, Nicki Minaj's studio, where she recorded things such as Red Ruby to Sleaze, and where she also did her 73 Questions with Vogue just a few years back, had burned down as well. So now she's at risk of losing her home and her studio, and it's just been a completely devastating thing. But the gentleman here up on the screen, I want the Barbs to go ahead and take a good look at this, because if he doesn't suffer in jail for the treason and the terrorism that he committed by committing an act of arson in an active fire that's burning the whole state down, the Barbs will make sure that gets taken care of. Now, moving on to a much lighter, much hotter topic, Nicholas Alexander Chavez. Yes, the infamous heartthrob who became known for Ryan Murphy's Netflix series Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story. He played Lyle Menendez in the show, and I believe that he did wonderfully in it. Now, for those of you, again, who live under a rock, would notice that when he was doing his press tours before the release and even after, he was going on certain shows and everything, you could just see it in his face that, I don't know if it was in his character or whatever it is, he just seemed very mundane, almost combative even. And that was really a shame. People were really disappointed in his behavior in these interviews until he went to the Golden Globes. Now, when he was at the Golden Globes, people are alleging that he may have snorted the spicy powdered sugar, if you know what I'm saying. Because he was utterly crazy. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I'm going to go ahead and put a clip up right now of him explaining what he's going to do after the Golden Globe. So, Nick, please take it away.
I'll probably play like Call of Duty Black Ops with my brother and my girlfriend when I get home, or some variation thereof. I don't know. Maybe we'll like order a little Postmates, like.
I'm probably just going to go ahead and play COD with my girlfriend and my brother. What? Like, so then he is absolutely going crazy. So now people are thinking that Netflix's PR team must have got a hold of him, because when you're a celebrity or you become a celebrity, it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. It almost seems like you might be sort of ungrateful a little bit. You know what I mean? Here's my thing on the whole take. I personally think that he was just a little nervous. He was excited. He was nervous. There were a lot of emotions going on. And he really was just being authentic when he told us that he was just going to go play Call of Duty with his brother after the show. Now, did he have to go off and call his brother? What did he call him again?
He's just such a butt. Like, he's like a classic little brother. Like, I love him, though.
A butt. Not necessarily the word I would use to describe my little brother, but hey, maybe, it was just spur of the moment, something that he felt like he needed to get off his chest. I don't know. But he seems very excited. And here's the thing. How could we hate the guy? Arrogant, combative, happy, doing the devil's, powder or not. How could we forget the infamous TikTok edit? Roll the clip, please.
Are you afraid the Mafia could come after you?
Yeah. Hey, where's your camera?
Hey, Mafia, after what we've been through, I'd like to see you try.
Mm-hmm. Ladies, we're both on that energy here. We know what we're both thinking. But at the end of the day, I think he was just having a lot of fun, and he was just trying to, get through these interviews, because when you become a celebrity pretty much probably overnight, it could probably be a little bit overwhelming. So let's go ahead and give him some grace. I was actually happy to see this new side of him. Granted, it did feel a little forced to me, and it did feel a little crazy. Since we're on the topic of video games, considering Nicholas Alexander Chavez said that that's what he was going to do after he left the Golden Globes, PlayStation said that they're working on a new technology. Sony is the parent company, so we'll refer to them as that going forward. Sony is excited and thrilled to be working on a new technology that will allow people to smell their games. So, the next time you walk into your son's room, instead of just smelling like BO and 6-week-old Little Caesars boxes, it can now reek of rotting flesh and gunpowder as he rots his life away playing none other than Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Because when that came out, that was utterly crazy. I personally had friends who literally canceled plans on me because that video game took precedence over everything. I could only imagine if the smell technology was out by the time that was released, because they would probably never leave their bedrooms. Ever. And it really just goes to show that we are in the era of crazy technological advancements. And for the most part, I like to think of it as a good thing. Unless you're using it maliciously and villainizing it against your own customers in the form of AI. So moving on, I'd like to go ahead and touch a little bit on what is now probably considered a little bit of old news, but I want you guys to hear my take on it. The United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, was murdered on December 24th by a gentleman who at this point needs no introduction, but his name is Luigi Mangione. Now, Luigi Mangione is a well-established, highly decorated, almost gifted individual. I mean, there is not one thing about him or his lifestyle or anything like that that we could see with the naked eye, at least, that he's losing in. I mean, look at him. I mean, Jesus Christ. I have not seen somebody that gorgeous since I watched the Eric and Lyle Menendez show. What I want to say is there was not one aspect of this gentleman's life that we, like I said, just as outsiders looking in, where he was, for lack of a better term, suffering. It almost seemed like he had the perfect life. He was wealthy. He lived in a multi-million-dollar home. He's absolutely jacked. Okay? Like, hello? Like, he is absolutely ripped. I mean, you could grate Parmesan cheese on those Italian abs. Okay? And the thing about it is, he graduated valedictorian and then moved on to an Ivy League school. Okay? This guy was the textbook definition of the American dream. And if even he was feeling the ramification of the greediness and the nastiness and just the villainization of pharmaceutical companies and corporate America, in his own words, what does that mean for the little guy? Nothing. So in his own words, or in his own kind of motives, we can just speculate here, but based on, reports from the police and things that he was screaming while he was lashing out in court and things that his attorneys have talked about, it just seemed as though he was responding to, like we mentioned in the last episode, the quote, civil unrest and the unjust, nasty practices of corporate America. Now, we all know that the healthcare system in the United States is an absolute joke. Some would describe it as almost murderous. And that is what kind of sparked the conversation, because people think that Luigi Mangione's, or it begs the question as to if Luigi Mangione's vigilantism was an actual act of murder, or if it was an act of almost self-defense or protection. Now, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole as to what I personally believe on that sense. I do believe that murder is murder, and bloodshed in any form is really, really bad. But the problem is Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was the worst offender, or at the very least, that even if he wasn't personally, United Healthcare was the worst offender in the healthcare system. I mean, they denied upwards of 32% of their claims using AI. That is more than any other company, established healthcare company in the entire nation. Okay? Just go ahead and take a look at this chat that he had with AI just a few months before the incident had occurred on December 4th. He says, on a totally unbiased, unedited clip of a chat with ChatGPT, says, and I quote, "Should I deny 32% of my clients' life-saving medication and or procedures? In other words, expediting their untimely deaths?" To which ChatGPT coldly replied simply, yes. Now, obviously, that is completely fake. Actually, when you ask ChatGPT that question, this is what it says. ChatGPT will say, and I quote, "Your question raises serious ethical, legal, and moral concerns. Denying life-saving medication and or procedures to 32% of your clients, potentially endangering their lives, would depend on the context and the reasons for such a decision. Such key considerations include 1. Ethical obligations. If you're in a field like healthcare, ethical standards, e.g., the Hippocratic Oath for physicians, generally require you to act in the best interest of your clients or patients. Denying care that could save lives would likely violate these principles. So if we have services like ChatGPT, which is the most attainable form of AI for just regular civilians, saying things, even this robot, this artificially programmed intelligent being that isn't even real, that doesn't have feelings, can tell you that you do need to have ethics in your company's practices. I'd like to know what this AI was telling these people. I mean, instead of an actual human going over the list, looking at what the physician's recommendations were, we're just going to put numbers in a robot and it just tell us no 32% of the time. I couldn't imagine how many families suffered as an act in this tragedy. And frankly, I don't even want to think about it. But between the gentleman claiming his own life in front of the Trump Tower, Luigi Mangione murdering a man, or what most would call murdering a man in broad daylight, in an effort to bring light to a terrible situation, it seems like the conversation needed to be had. In some lighter news, TikTok is getting banned. 'Cause great! Americans can't even afford to eat, put gasoline in their car, clothe their children, go to school, maintain a job, pay their rent, entertain themselves. They are struggling to afford to just basically make ends meet, even at times having 2 incomes in the household or working multiple jobs. But you know what the greatest concern is right now? Getting rid of TikTok, because China is our biggest threat right now. Not our own government, but China spying on us. Even though they've probably been doing that for millennia, we now need to crack down on it. So, just the other day, TikTok announced that it will be formally shutting its doors in the United States of America if the Supreme Court upholds a decision made by Congress to force a sale. It will be closing on the 19th of this month unless the Supreme Court intervenes in some kind of way. One of 3 things can happen. Number 1, they can go ahead and uphold the Congress's desire to shut it down. In other words, getting it closed permanently on the 19th. Number 2, they could throw it out and say that it is unconstitutional per the First Amendment, which TikTok and its attorneys are fighting. Or number 3, they're going to say that they don't really know and they need to look into it further, meaning the platform will still shut down, but it won't be officially banned until it actually gets ushered through. Now, what I wanted to talk about is Twitter, okay? Or formerly Twitter, now known as X. People are in a stir and they think it's funny to say that all the small businesses and all the artistry and all the good things that came of TikTok are simply going to disappear. They mention names such as Dua Lipa, SZA, Olivia Rodrigo, Chappell Roan, and even Sabrina Carpenter. Now I'm going to let you know right now, you look at me. You leave Sabrina Carpenter out of this. I don't care if I have to sit on every device in my house and get every member of my family and all my friends to sit there and farm streams for her, because her career will not die. If there's not one girl I play with, it's Sabrina Carpenter, and you could bet on that. Alrighty guys, that's going to go ahead and conclude today's episode of Here's My Thing, starring Frankie Salazar. As always, I would love to know your thing, so go ahead and sound off in the comments or send me a message, or however you're seeing my video, please just let me know what it is that you'd like me to talk about. Maybe you disagreed with me, maybe you did agree with me, or maybe you have a different take on something and maybe you could pick my brain a little bit about it, and I would love to hear about it. So, at the end of the day, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a little shorter than our introductory video, but either way, I hope you were entertained, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Take care.